What I've discovered over the years, that life is absolutely amazing.
Life is too precious to be put on the dump.
You don't need to deteriorate as a human being just because you're getting old.
I'm almost 60 years old and feel like I'm 20 years old.
Biologically, I'm definitely a lot younger now. You know, I'm playing sports with most of my friends' kids.
I'm absolutely in the best shape of my entire life, even in my 20s.
I can't say I'm 50 years old, of course not. But at least it put up a value in life, basically.
I would say that I'm in better health today than I was when I was 25.
The goosebump experiences that I have had over the past decade, I wouldn't trade for the world.
You just start a new life again because you're at a closed door and someone opened it.
Name's Gray Beal, 53 years old. Been doing this for about 14 years.
My name is Juanita Beal, and I'm from Vancouver Island, British Columbia, here in Canada. And we're at our gym, One-on-One Fitness, which is just outside of Qualicum Beach. We do our best to inspire and motivate people to have the best life that they can. And we work together side by side as a team.
Every day.
And we've been doing that for almost 12 years now.
We teach the full package here. It's all about everything, mind, body, and soul, for sure. And that's what's, I think, a bit different. That's what makes us kind of unique.
We're getting to be well known for healing. I'm noticing now more and more that people his age, in their 50s, they're coming down with some chronic illnesses, and they used to mock him and myself for our lifestyle, and now they're banging at our door wanting help. Laura Bentley, a woman that is truly amazing, who has inspired me. She has lost more than 55 pounds. She had eczema all over her body. She was a very good friend of mine, so I was pretty excited when she decided to embrace the healthy lifestyle.
I had discovered a small piece of eczema on one of my feet, and it was hardly noticeable, and I wasn't really concerned about it, except that it started spreading up my leg over a period of months. So I went to the doctor and got his prescription for hydrocortisone cream, and it took it down, took all the swelling down, and masked the problem, but it didn't heal it. And then it transferred over to my other leg. It transferred into my arms, and it was across my back. It was so bad that I could hardly sleep at night because the inflammation was so incredibly bad, and I would scratch until it bled.
One of my clients' fathers came down with Lou Gehrig's disease, and he was so close to dying, I could smell death on him. He was days away from death.
I'm Hagen von Konrads. I'm 82 years of age, and I live here in Qualicum Beach. In 2000, I developed something like a twist in my left arm, and consulting a specialist, of course, he determined it's only an impairment of the nerve, so in 2 years' time, everything will be fine. Thank you. In the meantime, it developed so far, we're talking about 2001, that I couldn't sleep very good. That means I was losing air. I was sleeping with my arms folded like this. Now, in my mind, do I have to do that for the rest of my life? That was the time prior to Dr. Eisen saying you have ALS and get your affairs in order. You live from minute to minute, so to speak, because you don't see the end of the tunnel. And then comes the hammer. That means, oh, you only get 6 weeks. I believe 6 weeks or 6 months. Well, that didn't help any. I was so peeved off with that doctor, I'm going to show him.
Within 6 months of being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I received the news that I had progressive thyroid cancer. But when they opened me up, they found that it was progressing at a rapid rate. something that they hadn't seen in somebody. I was 26 years old at the time. The doctors decided that I would have to have what's called radioactive iodine, and the scan basically showed that the cancer had spread into my lungs.
I started rafting basically because it was brand new in this country. We were the first commercial rafting company in the history of Canada. And inflatables were new on rivers here. Now, up to that point, I only traveled in canoes. So I took a few inflatables down for a man I worked for 30 years, Irwin Ortley, and I just kept rowing inflatables. And I'm still rowing inflatable rafts down rivers between here and the Indian Himalayas. And we work just about every single day. And even at the end of the day, after rowing boats for 10 hours a day, I still go to the gym in the evening for 3 hours. I toco up, and Toco Man goes hard forward. You know, to be able to go back and forth between here and the Indian Himalayas is just incredible for me. I feel so lucky to be able to live that lifestyle.
I went in for just a regular checkup, like we all do once in a while, to the family doctor. The doctors never really told me what the problem was. He said it's just that I have a prostate problem, that I'm on the verge of developing prostate cancer, and we've got to cut it out. Either we got to do some pills and take care of this, or we've got to cut it out. Well, I don't know if you've ever sat in a doctor's chair, a doctor's office, and be told that you don't have any choice. That's where I was. And it wasn't very funny. I got a family, I got grandkids. I don't want to hear a doctor tell me I don't have a choice. And at that point, I didn't know I had a choice, because it wasn't until about 2 weeks later that I found out about Avena.
I was first introduced to the raw food idea and living foods and enzymes about 14 years ago. I went to an Avena meeting, actually. I was paving then. I was in the asphalt industry, road building, and I went to this meeting, and it was so powerful, and I was having a few health issues of my own, and I was already on the path with my own research, but this was such an eye-opener. I decided to actually give my notice at work.
Many years ago, I was quite ill. I used to be 224 pounds. I was a size 20. I was very sedentary, worked in a credit union, and had no passion, and was medicated for bipolar disorder, so I was on lithium, and very miserable. I remember this one time when a guy at a credit union walked in, and I was working, and he hadn't seen me in a while, and I had gained about 75 pounds, and he asked me when I was due, and I said, I'm not, I'm just fat. And it was kind of that day that gave me a real wake-up call that I needed to do something about my life. I met Gray Beal. He introduced me to raw food and actually told me that I had a choice with my health, that I didn't have to be on lithium for the rest of my life. And of course I thought he was crazy, because all the doctors had always told me, there's no way, you'll always be on medication, and this is just the way you're gonna have to live. And I always felt numbed out. I thought I was just gonna kind of be like how my mom was, because I had irritable bowel syndrome, and my mom, she died of colon cancer at the age of 41, and I kind of really thought that I wouldn't live past my 40s. My husband, Gray there, he was like, no, this is the way it can be done, and you can change things. So I was like, okay.
15 minutes after I started listening to this man by the name of Michael O'Brien, I thought maybe I dropped in off a different planet or something, because this guy was so far out to lunch I couldn't believe it. By the end of the afternoon, I was just swimming with facts and new information I'd never had before. I went to Calgary and I listened to Mel basically give us the same information again. And after his presentation, I went up to him and I said, Mel, what do I do? He says, well, you're going to have to hit it hard, Bill, because you're in a condition right now where you can't wait. Well, it was only a few weeks down the road before I phoned Mel and I said, Mel, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm going nuts. My whole body, my whole torso was coming out with sores and just oozing. And my wife would have to put me into a salt bath 2 or 3 times a night just to get the itching down enough so I could get a couple hours sleep. And I said, Mel, I can't do this. He said, Bill, hang in there. It will get better. It's all the poisons coming out of your system.
Dr. Michael O'Brien was here in Qualicum Beach, and my daughter happened to come from the NIMO at the time. She picked up a small pamphlet that Mike O'Brien was here in Qualicum. Coincidence? Like, we started to have raw food in the morning, the afternoon, and at night. And then, of course, all the enzymes, and Veronica did all to help me. I wasn't quite capable of doing it myself. I had what is called the stepping method. You're going up a little bit, and then you go down. You go up a little bit, and you go down. But eventually you're gaining over a period of time, but it's kind of discouraging. Because if you had 3 or 4 good days, and then you feel kind of depressed. But this is the way nature does. Just like resting, you go up 3 days, and then you rest. Like going up a mountain, then you go up further, and you rest. So over the 3 years of my improvement, I had many, I should say, stops. But basically, once I was over the hill, so to speak, or on the hill, I was feeling all right.
You know, when you find something that works, stay with it, you know?
For the first 3 to 5 days, I had a headache, and it felt like somebody had hit me over the head with a hammer. I hadn't been able to feel anything from my shoulder to my chin, and I started getting some feeling back. And every day that it was torture, I was starting to see progress. I was starting to read, but it was like I couldn't read fast enough because I had to know what to do and how to, what I could eat and what I couldn't eat, and I was sick. And then I started feeling like I wanted to throw up, and then I ended up, coughing out a lot of substance, and then I started coughing out blood and tissue. And so when I started looking at this, I thought, could it be that these are the cancer, the lumps coming out of my lungs? I did bring it to Kathy, and she did read it for cancer toxins that had been loosened or came out of my lungs.
The results I got from changing that lifestyle, I had cataracts in my eyes. I was apparently supposed to get those operated on, and those were gone within 3 months. My eyes are totally clear now. The IBS is gone. I've never felt anything. My bowel is working phenomenal now. And I've actually de-aged. I've gotten a lot younger. I've taken a lot of years off my life.
In 2000, I met Juanita Beal at a course that I was doing. And it wasn't until 2009 that I started working out in her gym and found out about Avena Originals products in no time at all, and chose them because she had made such great changes in her life on such a physical and health level that I decided to give them a try.
I started making some small changes. Like the first thing I did was I gave up Diet Coke. I was drinking 6 Diet Cokes a day with a cigarette. I got onto herb cocktail and gave up dairy. That was the first big thing that I did, and incredible results. I mean, my IBS, because it was crippling, it would be to the point where I'd either have chronic constipation or I would have diarrhea. That's what I would suffer from. And within less than 2 weeks of giving up the Diet Coke and the dairy and taking enzymes and herb cocktail, my IBS was literally gone.
I was told to get on the herb cocktail to clean my colon out and to detoxify my body. So I immediately started there. Within 4 months of starting to eat 100% raw, my eczema was gone. And this is after 2 years of trying to clean it up myself, after going to doctors, and it was after just turning 100% raw, increasing my Avena products, increasing my enzymes, my probiotics, and getting onto Toco, especially with my green smoothies in the morning.
The next big thing was taking out gluten out of the diet and replace that with certain things like hemp hearts and chia seeds, some different raw versions of grains, flax seeds, and those sorts of things. And before I knew it, I was probably about 80% raw. 80% raw and supplementing with pretty much everything that Avena had. And within 6 months, I was completely off all my medication. So I weaned myself off very gradually, and I think that's really important because, as somebody who suffered from mental illness, one of the big things that I used to do was I didn't want to be numb anymore, so I would go off my meds and I would end up in the hospital, right? And I would do this roller coaster rides.
I ride a mountain bike for a living, and I take a lot of beats, and doing so, you end up getting a little sore from time to time, and any little bit of an edge I can get from my competition, I'm gonna seek out. I train with Gray, but one-on-one fitness. When I first started training with them, I started to realize that, like, wow, this whole raw food, all like the crazy supplements, and then tying into Avena Originals, everything adds up to helping out my career and making me able to stay in the ring longer. Once you start to get into this kind of stuff, it's kind of a snowball effect. You first start doing the odd thing like alkalizing your body, and then that leads into, oh, maybe I should get into some enzymes, and then, oh, maybe I should take away a lot of the other, the acid forming foods, and then, you really start to feel the benefits of each and every step along the way.
Pretty lucky to live where we do. That's why I always struggle a little bit when I travel, and I take lots of superfoods with me. There's never been any place that I've been to 52 countries in 12 years, and I like the food that I have here.
There's Mother Nature's food and there's man-made. There's nothing in between. And the more non-nature food that you eat, the more it's going to affect you.
We really emphasized living food. On the ground, off the trees. It made so much sense to me, the enzymes, because of the living aspect of it. Living food and the way enzymes break foods down into small particles and make the nutrients utilizable. That was the biggest eye-opener for me, how important enzymes are. And they're in everything that's living. So to add those to a diet, even if it's raw, will make more utilization of every nutrient in that food. Then I started looking into when you take them in between meals, how they break down and clean out everything. And that is the key to healing is getting rid of the garbage.
I broke a wrist on a trek up in a place called Badranath, high in the Himalayas. And I had to go out on an expedition 3 weeks after I broke my wrist. I took huge amounts of enzymes, huge amounts of effusion, huge amounts of minerals and vitamins, and I was ready to row the Brahmaputra in 3 weeks with a cracked wrist. Rode the river successfully, no problem at all.
A person has to be aware that a pill, I'm talking about the chemical pills from the pharmaceutical industry, does not help. So they have to make a choice, either pharmaceutical pills or capsules, or the ones coming from nature, for example, the enzymes. And what really intrigued me is, that's what Francis and Michael O'Brien said, regardless how many enzymes you take, you never overload your system, because your system, by nature, takes the excess enzymes and stores them. We did this for 90 days and we could find an improvement. So in April, I got a call from Vancouver again to see them for an appointment, the specialist. And he asked, how are we coming over to Vancouver? I said, well, my daughter will drive me over. No, are you coming with the ambulance or in a wheelchair? I said, no. But I didn't believe it. When he went upstairs, he looked at me and he didn't realize that I was the person coming, because in his mind, I was done with. Because he turned white in his face when I was upstairs and came towards him. So I asked him, I said, Doctor, what's wrong? He started to stutter. I canceled the appointment.
Well, I went back to my lab after 4 weeks and had my tests done again. And then we waited and we waited and we waited and we waited for lab results. And finally my wife had to go to the family doctor at home, and the receptionist said, you really need to get your husband to retake the lab tests, because it's impossible that those numbers have changed that much in 4 weeks.
4 years ago I had a football injury, well, it was a shoulder injury. I had 3 major tendons severed: bicep tendon, subscapula, and the supraspinatus tendon was cut right off and had to be pulled back with pliers and pinned to the bone. And he said I would not to lift weights for 8 months because it was so severe. So he gave me, I had a sling on. I was not allowed to take the sling off for 6 weeks. When I got home, I understood the principles of healing through all this knowledge I have of enzymes. And so I went 100% raw. I took 500 enzymes every 2 days on an empty stomach. I pounded them. And in 2 days, I took the sling off to give it a small range of motion. I know I didn't listen to him, but it worked out well in the end, because he said I've not to lift in 8 months, and in 3 weeks I was doing lat pull downs in the gym. And he said that he had never seen anything like it in his life. He took 2 more surgeons that had clients out of the rooms into his room and said in his medical lingo what he'd done to me. And he got me to whip my arm around, just like, what? This is easy. He said, you weren't supposed to have that range of motion ever. And you weren't supposed to be lifting for a long time.
I diagnosed myself as cured. I had to. Nobody else would, number one. And number two, your mind, I had to tell my mind. That was the last thing that healed, was my mind. Like, the physical healed really quickly, but the mind was still sitting there waiting for an answer from medical.
So we had 2 more appointments, and they found out that we were improving. Instead of asking us what made the improvement, what was possible, they never asked anything. So by the next year, just about the same time, it was the last meeting with Dr. Eisen, and he said, well, I think you don't have to come back anymore. So my daughter, being with me all the time, she said, Dr. Eisen, did you ever misdiagnose? Yes, once before, and I don't think he had ALS at all. And that was the end. He left us there. He never even said goodbye. He was known as a specialist from here to Toronto. So he really was somebody. He never asked me a moment what happened, why I turned better. I would go so far as criminal, because if I'm able to help someone else who's on his way down, it's the same thing as if you're shipwrecked. You're obliged to help someone who is drowning, right? But don't give them a push or a false hope.
I love biking, so decided to do a bike trip across Canada. I wanted to inspire people to eat more raw foods and wanted to show them exactly what was possible with a raw food diet, and that you could do it on the road with nothing but a blender. Away we went with the goal to make it all the way to St. John's, Newfoundland on a 100% raw food diet. After 10 weeks and about 7,400 kilometers, I noticed my body just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. These guys that I would ride with, they would be eating about 12,000 calories a day and fading on their, pizza and Coke kind of diet. And I didn't need any more than about 4,500 calories a day, because I was supplementing huge with enzymes, Avena's enzymes. I was taking Toco and basically everything that they had, because Avena sponsored me, so I just went to town with everything. And it was not even a month later that I set out to do my back-to-back Ironman in Penticton, Canada. There was a couple of men that had done triple Ironmans, and I thought that'd be kind of cool to be the first woman to ever do that. I did 3 of those back to back to back in 70 hours. And the really cool thing is that on that 4th day, I wanted to do another one because my body, it wasn't sore. I didn't feel tired. I had a support crew of 11 people, and I remember my husband, I woke up that 4th morning and I said, I feel so good. I think I can do another one. Get the crew, round them up, let's do this. And Grace said, no, you're not. Get the van. We're putting you in the van and you're going home.
In the Himalayas, all the village people know me as Toco Man, because they just see how incredibly strong I am for my size, pound to pound, and the endurance, the endurance level, it's just beyond the spectrum. I go to India roughly just under 6 months, and I take with me over 70 pounds of Avena products. And that's my survival in India. That keeps me strong, keeps me healthy. It certainly helps me maintain a high level of health. And if I do get ill, it's for a very short period of time.
I'm unique for my age. I know so many people that are on medications. I'm not on any medications. They don't know really what they want to do with their lives except give up and plan on the rest home that they're going to be in for the rest of their lives. And that's the last place that I'm going to be spending my time, because I have a lot of living to do. I jumped out of an airplane last year. I scuba dive and I mountain bike, and I just don't think of myself as being 63 years old.
I don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for Avena.
If I hadn't been introduced to the Avena product, I don't think that I would be able to get to the level that I've reached at this point. There are foods out there that feed the body. And unfortunately, we live in a chemical world, a lot of nutritional depletion in our foods. So we don't really have any choice but to supplement with really good supplements from Mother Nature to give us our strength.
We've seen people come through here who have healed their bodies from cancer, hepatitis C. I mean, the biggies. I wouldn't be able to experience the joy of seeing people recover and heal if I hadn't been introduced to that.
I knew I ran around looking for the answers, but I was running around looking for the answers. I wasn't running around looking for donations and support me and shave your head too. And I kind of feel like you could be spending your energy on something else that's helping you.
I don't like to ridicule the ALS Society, but they have no hope. As far as I'm concerned, there should be at least news or newspapers or pamphlets that there is a way out.
I would rather tell them that in 3 weeks I held my tumors in my hand. It takes you 3 weeks to raise money and talk about it.
A person should be willing to spend a few dollars. Unfortunately, they hang on to it until they put the check into the casket, so to speak. It's no good. So it's not cheap, of course not. But basically, you can't put a label on health. But they have to change, many have to change their lifestyle too.
If nothing changes, nothing changes. That's a big motto we have here. And I've got it in massive letters on the gym wall because people need to see that.
You don't get sick because you're unlucky. You get sick because you've made poor health choices in your life.
You've got the body that you deserve based on the choices that you made. But the really powerful and cool thing is that you've got the power to make a different choice to have the body that you truly want.
I think anybody can have it. There's hope for anybody. You can de-age at any age. You just got to make a decision to do that.
One has to make that choice to keep going, what I say, hard forward, keep going hard forward, keep looking after your health.